Hello everyone, good evening. My name is Doris Jade as Loma. I'll be presenting to you my concept paper entitled Second Language Vocabulary Acquisition of Senior High School Students in Iligan City from and Reading Stories. I have chosen this study because I believe that the long neglected issue of vocabulary acquisition is currently receiving attention in second language pedagogy and research, reflecting the importance always accorded it by learners. So, since vocabulary can be a key factor for success, central to a language, and paramount to a language learner, vocabulary knowledge is essential for fluent second language use. Learners need a large amount of vocabulary to communicate successfully in a second language, with studies showing that to reach successful comprehension of a wide range of written and spoken discourse, learners need to know around 6,000 to 7,000 and 8,000 to 9,000 word families, respectively. For the statement of the problem, first question I have in this study would be, do the learners learn more vocabulary from and while reading stories? Second, at what rate is this new vocabulary knowledge learned? And at what rate does it decay? Third, are the learners more likely to learn a word if they meet it more often? Fourth, are there significant differences in acquisition rates depending on whether the test is a multiple choice test or a meaning translation test? Fifth question, is vocabulary size a predictor of the receptive and productive vocabulary gain? Alright, so that's the statement of the problem. So I'll proceed with the objectives of the study, starting with number 1, to determine effective second language vocabulary learning strategies. Second, to determine whether reading stories increase vocabulary acquisition. Third, to gauge the vocabulary skills of senior high school students in the division of Iligan City. Fourth, to evaluate the effectiveness of reading stories in acquiring second language vocabulary. And the last objective of the study is to promote reading stories and increase second language vocabulary acquisition. Right, so at this point, I'll discuss the research locales and respondents of the study. So this study will be conducted in all public schools in Iligan City, offering humanities and social sciences and general academic strands. So the study will be focusing on senior high school students under those two strands. In the K-12 programs, students under these two strands have to take English core subjects. So the respondents will be randomly selected among the population of senior high school students in Iligan City. Right, so let's proceed with the literature review. So I have actually 10 literatures related to the study, but I will be mentioning 4 of these literatures. The first literature is the reading approach of Richards and Rogers 2000. So the reading approach is a response to declining reading scores in U.S. schools. So I believe this does not happen in the U.S. context. This is very similar scenario in the Philippine context. So to select the target language context, the advocates of the reading approach favored a scientific and quantifiable perspective in language classes. So they criticize that focusing on speech without selecting the content in a principled way is not useful. second literature is by Celsi and Morshaw 2014. This is about the intentional and incidental learning. So word learning involves both intentional, explicit learning, which is the focused study of words, and incidental learning. Incidental learning happens when the words are picked up while the learner's attention is on the language used. So, according to Nation as well of 2001, he believed that form, collocation, and word classes should be taught and learned incidentally, but aspects of meaning, register, and other constraints are better learned through direct, explicit instruction. Right, let's proceed with the third literature. It's about incidental vocabulary acquisition from reading versus listening. This is by Brown et al. 2008 and Vidal of 2011. So, studies that have compared the effects of reading and listening on second language incidental word learning are very few in numbers. So, in a study of 35 Japanese English foreign language learners with a pre-intermediate or intermediate level proficiency, compared the impact of three input modes. So reading while listening, and listening on incidental vocabulary acquisition and retention. Next, literature is the importance of vocabulary development by Stahl 2015. So according to Stephen Stahl, vocabulary knowledge is knowledge. The knowledge of a word not only implies a definition, but also implies how that word fits into the world. So we continue to develop vocabulary throughout our lives. Words are powerful. Words open up possibilities, and of course, that's what we want for all of our students. Right. So I'll proceed now to the theoretical framework. So I have two. This is the schema theory and the scaffolding theory of Vygotsky. So the schema theory, one significant theory related to effective vocabulary growth is the schema theory. Since students with limited schemas or prior knowledge have more difficulty learning new words, developmental instructors must take this concern into account when contemplating appropriate vocabulary instruction for their students. The scaffolding theory of Vygotsky has foundation on zone of proximal development, or the ZPD. It described as the distance between students' actual developmental level and potential level with direct instruction or peer collaboration. So this theory suggests that as students' experiences with words grow, it becomes easier to learn new words. Okay. So as to how to conduct the study, my proposed methods or procedures would be: number one, the respondents or the learners must complete a language background questionnaire. Second, evaluate and assess the level of second language vocabulary words learned by the senior high school students in Iligan City. Third, determine the second language vocabulary perception of both teachers and students using a perception checklist. Fourth, reading materials to be used in the study will be short stories. So vocabulary in the story will be controlled to ensure that potential acquisition of the unknown items would not be hindered by lack of knowledge of the remaining items in the text. So I guess that's all about my presentation. Thank you for listening. God bless.